Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com. Today I want to talk to you about the difference between the poor and the rich, the successful and the unsuccessful. There are many theories people have about the rich. They somehow got their riches because of family connections, or they inherited it, or crime, or greed, or whatever. And some of that may be true to a lesser extent. Of course, the movies play that out, and the media and the pop culture loves to push that scenario, that idea of the rich being evil and taking shortcuts and greedy and all this stuff. The reality is there's a lot of things that we do differently. There's a lot of things that successful people do differently from the poor, from the unsuccessful. There's a lot of things that people who are rich, people who are successful, do that the poor and unsuccessful do not. It's not just a matter of, because sometimes you can just compare money and say, well, some people inherited it. But when you take people who came from poverty and became wealthy, and you look at their lives, you look at people who are top performers and successful in whatever industry they're in, you look at what they do compared to those who aren't, it is not the same thing. So it's not like these are just individuals. One's getting a lucky break and the other one, poor them, they're not. No, that poor person is doing a lot of things that keep them poor. That is not to say that they didn't have things that were disadvantageous and things that were worked against them and obstacles and hurdles that maybe the person who became rich didn't have. There's certainly cases of that out there. But everybody's got some obstacle, some adversity they have to go through. And oftentimes, those who became successful, those who became rich, had even more than those who just floundering around in poverty and mediocrity and failure. I read today an interview with a successful person, and it was interesting to hear his telling of, because people asked about what he was doing each day. He had time off, and what he was doing sounded like a full work day. Between his physical regimen of, in the morning he was doing cardio, and in the afternoon he was doing resistance training, and in the evening he was doing more cardio. He didn't have to, but he was keeping himself in tip-top shape. The reading he was doing, the affirmations, the visualization, the constant work and prayer and thoughtfulness about his business and life that he was doing on a day off. Compare that to people who are not successful, people who tend to be poor, and what are they doing on days off? Well, it depends on the age a lot of times. Sometimes if they're younger, they're going to clubs, they're drinking, they're partying, they're going to sporting events, they're playing video games at home. Basically, they're wasting their time, their precious time, on all kinds of frivolity, entertainment, and time-wasting endeavors. Many times they even point blank say that. They'll talk about video games they're playing or movies they're watching that are quote-unquote great time killers. They literally admit they're killing time, they're wasting time, and they have no problem with it. Meanwhile, the successful person, the rich person, is thinking about how to best use their time, how to make the most use out of their time each and every day. And they've done countless studies throughout the years, throughout the decades, and the richest and successful people in the world watch the least amount of entertainment, play the least amount of video games, listen to the least amount of music, at least pop worldly music. They do read the most, and we're talking by some 6,000% more than the average person. There's an old saying that success leaves clues, but this is so true. You compare the life of a successful and rich person with the life of someone who's poor and failing, they are not doing the same thing. Now, you could say if they were doing the same thing each and every day, and that poor person was getting bad results, and the rich person was getting good results, that there was some disparity there that was unfair advantage for that rich person. That would be a valid point. But you can't do that. You don't find that among the poor. And if you do find someone who's poor right now, who is constantly reading, improving themselves, building themselves up, constantly building their faith, working on their body physically as well, keeping themselves in good shape, eating right, that person is not going to be poor for very long. And they're not even going to have the tinge of failure anywhere near them. They may not have monetarily a lot of money or material possessions right now, but everything about them screams success. It screams prosperity. It screams this person has a future. But you don't find that among most poor people. It's just not the reality. And this may sound unfair, it may sound unkind, and it's not the way it's intended. But you really have to wake up and look at what do poor people do and what do rich people do. Now, sometimes the rich people don't even let you know. It's kind of you kind of find out little glimmers of what they do, because it's almost like trade secrets they don't want to reveal. But look at how they treat their children. There are all kinds of schools that extremely wealthy people send their children to, and they don't have tablets and computers and all these things. They have basic stuff. They're learning math, and they're not getting caught up in all this political nonsense and arguing and having battles over stuff while nothing's getting learned. Their kids are learning at the highest levels. They're learning things that are specifically designed for that kid, the benefits that will greatly benefit them and help them in areas they already are showing promise in. Meanwhile, the poor send their children to public school. They're just cattle called through. They're put through and taught all the same, as if they all learn the exact same way, as if they're all going to do the exact same thing. And nothing's even thought about, maybe this kid needs to be learning more math or more science because they're showing that they excel in that area, until they're in high school or something. Then it's like, well, we need to see where you might want to work, what kind of skills you might place best for. But they've already lost all that time. See, there are very big differences in how the rich and poor think, how they invest, what do they do with their time. And that's the biggest thing, because the most important thing is not money, it's not material possessions, it's your time. You don't get more of that. If you're wasting your time babbling about the news, watching the news, reading the news, getting caught up in sporting events, all this frivolity, the latest video games and stuff. And I understand that all that stuff is fun and enjoyable, and yet it's killing you and it's wasting your time. It's killing your productivity, and it keeps you away from being a success. You may point to some rich person who was at a sporting event or movies or whatever the case may be, but very oftentimes they're actually making deals while they're there. There's some reason, business and success-wise, while they're there. They're not just there strictly for entertainment purposes. But even if they were, they had had track record of years, decades even, of diligent hard work, so they can have a little bit of allowance for this kind of entertainment, even though I'm not suggesting it. But it's not going to hurt them, because their overall trajectory is forward towards more success, more wealth, more abundance. And that is something that if you're on the bottom already, you can't keep doing the things that the people on the bottom do and expect to get to the top. You can't keep investing your time in fruitless endeavors that guarantee you nothing. Fruitless endeavors, time wasters, and expect to become a success. You have to invest your time wisely. The most wise thing you can do is build yourself up. I've written numerous books, dozens of books, about a dozen of them are in print right now, and they're all geared toward your success, your prosperity, you profiting at the highest level, materially, spiritually, physically, mentally, in all areas. And if you'll invest in yourself, build yourself up, that's something that can't be taken away from you. And that is something that will yield the best results long term. You don't get that from playing video games. You don't get that from watching movies. You don't get that from reading the news and watching all the media and nonsense and frivolity in the world. My friend, do things differently. If you are not in the perfect place you want to be in, then examine yourself. See whether you be in the faith. See what are you doing each and every day What can you change that would bring you closer to success? What can you change that would be more of a step in the right direction toward your goals, toward your dreams? My friend, don't let another day go by where you're just flailing around in mediocrity, blaming the world, blaming the devil, blaming God, blaming other people, blaming your family, whatever or whoever that most people like to blame. Take responsibility. Make the changes in your own life. Change your mentality. Follow Philippians 4:8. Think on these things of good report, things that are lovely, things that are true, things that are pure, holy, just. Think about those things, my friend. Those virtuous, praiseworthy things. Keep your thought ever on those things. And my friend, you will become a great success. I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.